Grandma got run over by a reindeer, walking home from our fort Christmas Eve. You can say there's no great Father Winter, but as for me and Loki, we believe. Oh no! Grandma got run over by a reindeer! Just like in the movie we just saw! Grandma got run over by a reindeer. It's coming! I just had a sudden thought. I mean, why give people a bad movie for Christmas when they can have something good? Though seriously, the bonus objective will be next, but let's get the lump of coal unwrapped beforehand. Now, if it isn't obvious enough, the movie is meant to be a film adaptation to the 1978 song by Elmo and Patsy Shropshire. It was a very silly country song about how the grandmother in this one family got caught up in a hit and run of sorts, and how the family reacts to their unusual loss. Most people either find this song to be very annoying given that it's a country song and the story within the lyrics is poorly done, but I personally love it because it's a silly story, and somehow being a country song makes it even better. And I hardly like any country music. In time, the song would receive multiple mentions and parodies, and of course its own movie adaptation by Phil Roman Entertainment and SFM Entertainment. Phil Roman himself even directs the movie, and I think you may remember one other movie he's done. The only other thing I want to mention regarding the film's release was it was first aired on the WB channel on October 31st of 2000, before being released on like the CW, Cartoon Network, and more during Christmas time. I remember seeing this as one of those Christmas movies that Cartoon Network would air, and I remember liking it. Can I say the same now that I've grown up a bit? No. I mean, right away we have ourselves a problem.
Walking home from our house Christmas Eve, you can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe.
Even though they got Elmo to voice one of the main characters and provide narration duty, he's not the one singing the title song. Now again, people tend to be split on the song for multiple reasons, but if they went through the trouble of adapting a song into a movie and getting the actual singer involved, maybe you should use them. So since we need to include a story to how this happened, we flash back a bit to earlier in the month before the eve of Deathmas, where we learn that Grandma Spankenheimer, yes, really, runs a novelty Christmas store in the middle of a city called Cityville. This film has a way with names that just seem sillier than even most children's cartoons, though usually they tend to have better writing than even this. So besides Grandma, who's voiced by Susan Blue, we have Jake, voiced by Alex Duduque, who for marketing's sake even has a Twitter account. Yes, really. Cousin Mel, who's voiced by Michelle Lee, who will be singing next year in The Love Bug. And as I mentioned before, Elmo voices another main character, Grandpa. Grandma is of course kind and generous, and is one of the only characters I do actually like.
You see, look around you. We are rich. Life's about being nice to people. Money? I'd say we make enough.
Enough? Enough is never enough.
And Mel is a greedy, unlikable hag. Oh, and of course Jake still believes in Santa Claus despite being old enough to use a computer. Now, it would be one thing if this movie were to teach children that even if Santa wasn't real, you could still do what Grandma said and be kind to others and believe in family. But this is Grandma got run over by a reindeer, so of course he's real. But there's also this thing about how lately, Christmas has become more and more manufactured by Own All Corporation, as people would rather buy inflatable trees than get the real thing.
Wish they had Christmas trees like that when I was a boy.
Here we go again.
We had to chop our trees down by hand. Never forget the time I had to use a beaver for a chainsaw.
Oh, that Grandpa Elmo and his wacky stories. Next he'll tell us he walked 15 miles to bring it home. Just like Grandpa Lou. Seriously, people would be lucky to even have something to put presents under. While Christmas has gotten to a point where it's all about materialism and money, some do still take value in bringing kindness and care to others. Which I think they're trying to say as well, but most of the time they still need to say, it's more fun to do it old-fashioned, instead of just letting people Christmas their way. So the next day, the shop gets visited by...
Excuse me, I'm...
Austin Bucks, CEO of the Cityville Own All Corporation.
No, that's Cam Clark, soon to be Kronos in a few years and savior of 2 worlds. Now, being the CEO of Own All Corp, you would think he might be this movie's villain since he wishes to own this store so he can build a mechanical Santa sleigh station. He's not. He does have an interest in the store, and even Mel takes an opportunity to set up a possible deal with him later, but by all accounts, he is not the main villain or even a real antagonist. That honor goes directly to Mel.
Grandma, do you realize what you just did? You let my fortune walk out the door. That was my future. I mean, Jake's future. Money for college, travel to Italy, world cruises, sports cars, jewels.
I tell you to put a cork in it, you greedy money grubber. But Grandma shouldn't talk that way.
This movie is just so subtle in how it approaches its characters. Oh, and since this is a musical movie, we gotta have a song about people who hate fruitcake.
The holidays were upon us and things were going fine, till the day I heard the doorbell and a chill ran up my spine. I grabbed the wife and children as the postman wheeled it in. My yearly Christmas nightmare has just come back again.
Now this is what I think of regarding a bad country Christmas song. Not helped either by the animation, which... I don't mind the character designs, but it just feels bland to look at sometimes. In an attempt to ruin Grandma's pastries, Mel distracts them long enough to pour something into the next batch, which Jake sees the bottle but doesn't say anything during or after this scene of Grandma and Jake being the only people who even care for Christmas.
Grandma, Daphne says there's no such thing as Santa.
Well, that's because she doesn't believe like I do.
Have you ever seen him?
No, but I've seen him in the smiles of people who share with others every Christmas.
You say things that may work in other Christmas movies, but it loses a bit of meaning here given what happens next. Now, of course, comes another rendition of the song played out in an actual scene, but watch as how they do it.
She'd been drinking too much eggnog.
You've been drinking too much eggnog.
And we begged her not to
Please,
go.
don't go.
Begging.
But she forgot her medication.
Besides, I left my
And
medication
she
at the
staggered
store.
out the door into the snow.
So instead of having the dialogue play out on its own, or have the song play over silence, they just have both go on at the same time. Clearly we need to have the song play no matter what, even if it's redundant. Oh, and as I said before, Santa is real in this world, and Jake gets to see him firsthand.
Walking home from our house Christmas
Grandma,
Eve.
watch out!
You can say there's no such thing as Santa.
A small child just witnessed a hit and run. Merry Christmas, everyone! He naturally goes to tell his parents about what he saw, and even though earlier they were begging Grandma not to leave, they don't seem too concerned enough to want to go out and check. They just call the police instead. The only other person who believes is Grandpa, making me wonder why he hasn't gone out to check since he's the husband.
When we found her Christmas morning at the scene of the attack,
See?
she had hoof prints on her forehead and incriminating claws marks on her back.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no body there. Despite the skepticism of the police, they do seem to find a strand of hair that would suggest reindeer. Mel does find a piece of paper that will become important later on in the story. Either way, Grandma is missing, and no one would be able to find her for months.
Grandma was nowhere to be found. Grandma's Christmas gifts remained unopened, and people dressed in black. Grandpa tried to cope by playing cards with Cousin Mel.
We're not sure if she's dead or just missing somewhere, but she might as well be dead to us. Then we can see what's in her will. So since Grandma is gone, business has stopped coming, and so Mel takes the opportunity to get Austin to buy the store. The problem is her name isn't on the deed, so she needs to get Grandpa to sign it away to her. But she has to trick him since he might catch on, even though at his age, I don't think it'll be that hard.
We'll spruce up the store, order new merchandise, hire a baker. It's right here in these papers. All you have to do is sign.
Sing?
No, sign.
Sure.
So sign.
I'd rather sing.
So one of the reasons I thought maybe Elmo wasn't able to sing his main song was that he was playing a character and the narrator. So maybe they didn't want to confuse people? Now that Grandpa is getting a song sequence, maybe we'll get an original song from Elmo.
Grandma spending Christmas with a superstar.
Or not. Seriously, was this just a royalties thing or something? What's the point of having the original singer ready when they're not gonna get to sing? It'd be like if Cho of One Piece fame made a song about meeting the cat viper and it got adapted into the anime for his character to sing, but he's not the one providing the voice. You just don't do that. As for the song itself, I have no care for it. It's Grandpa's way of coping, but it's the most we ever get out of him regarding his relationship with Grandma. Though this seems worrisome, but just boring otherwise. Well, the deed is signed. She tells the family about this, and Jake is none too happy about it. So he actually goes out of his way to skate to Austin's office just to try and stop him from buying the store.
Please, please don't buy Grandma's store.
Too late, kid. With this last piece of property, Mr. Bucks will own all of Cityville.
Who are you?
Cousin Mel's attorney. I am Slime.
Are you perhaps related to I Am Mean? Now, if Austin were a villain, he'd just turn down Jake's offer to find Grandma. However, and maybe this was still just him playing with his emotions for Santa, he does encourage Jake to find Grandma with his help, since the deal doesn't close for a week. So Jake goes home, and despite not having clues, he does actually try emailing Santa.
Santa Claus at SantaClausIsReal.com. Dear Santa, all I want for Christmas is my grandma. Can you help find her? P.S. She looks like this. Send.
So this movie is saying those possibly dark websites have worth? I guess so, because the email does go all the way to the North Pole, where the elves are what I'd expect in their designs, and Santa likes wearing a jumpsuit.
None! Not a single letter from Cityville! It's as if they're too busy with their prefabricated, mass-produced lives to need me anymore!
So ignore them. They're just one city compared to everywhere else in the world that probably needs you. Seriously, he's only concerned about this one city not understanding the true meaning of Christmas that he's willing to cancel the holiday. But in any case, he gets the letter about Grandma and is happy knowing they solved where she lived. Even though it shouldn't have been that hard, she barely got off the walkway of her family's house. And while he wishes to have them send a reply to Jake, Quincy here decides to personally visit him and bring him to his grandma in person. After all, Grandma is suffering from amnesia, which she never recovered from after how many months here?
Old Saint Nick and Mrs. Claus decided just this year there won't be any Christmas. The feeling's just not here. Some kids get more than they need, and some are spoiled rotten. And when it comes to Christmas time, too many are forgotten.
God, they're blunt with how bad people are at Christmas. So Jake gets to meet Santa, and Santa seems really happy with meeting him since he's apparently the only kid in Cityville who isn't a dick. Jake learns the hard way that Grandma has amnesia, but still, they need to get her back home to save the store. So they fly straight to Austin's office. just passing over Mel and Slime and swinging around to the back of the building so Santa and Jake can go in alone. Without Grandma or Quincy.
It's Grandma. She's supposed to be missing.
We just know she's with them because Santa was real, flew over us just now, and Jake said he wanted to get his help earlier. Also, if Santa and Jake went in before Mel decided to, how the hell did she get into his office before they did? Either way, Jake convinces Austin that this is the real Santa by having him reveal one of the toys he wanted for Christmas. Santa then explains what happened to Grandma.
Something made my reindeer go waha!
Waha! Follow me, guys!
I tried to stop them, but nothing worked. Then everything went black. I'm terribly sorry. I don't know what got into those reindeer.
Who are you?
Oh, I better get you medical attention. Quincy, leave a note explaining what happened. So, of course, she was welcome to stay at the North Pole until she felt better. We've got great medical care, every therapy and treatment imaginable, at no ho-ho-ho cost.
Okay, aside from the inconsistency where she was face down in the snow when Jake saw the incident, why didn't you at least bring her back after she recovered? Amnesia aside, that is. Then again, how did he not see she had amnesia before this point? Either way, sounds like the deal is off since Grandma is safe. Or not, because Jake saw that Grandma is missing again. Mel says,
Since Grandma is nowhere to be found, and the man in the red suit here admitted he ran over her, I demand that you have Santa arrested for the disappearance of Grandma.
No!
Okay then, well you have a witness to both disappearances. Jake! He can pretty much clear Santa of being responsible for the second disappearance since he was with them the whole time. Now we learn about Mel and Slime's master plan. Hide Grandma in this cabin until Santa is found guilty of his crime, then sue him for money. Never mind that Santa's net worth is probably nothing, since he doesn't profit from giving gifts, nor would any materials he has have any monetary value. This leads into the worst song in the movie. Possibly in any Christmas movie, really.
Grandpa's gonna sue the pants off of Santa. That's what Grandpa's gonna do. Woo-hoo! Grandpa's gonna sue the pants off of Santa, 'cause Grandma would have wanted him to.
Ugh, it's so obnoxious! And there's no real variation in the animation. They're just dancing in place and sometimes it focuses on one of them, but that's it. There's nothing here but really low tone remarks in some spots.
Because Grandma would have wanted him to. No pantalones. Grandpa's gonna sue the pants off of Santa. He knows the law is on his side.
So even though Santa got arrested in September, it's been months now and it's close to Christmas time. And it's only now reaching the climax. If nothing is done, he'll be found guilty and Christmas will be ruined. Jake and his sister start to think that maybe Grandma didn't go missing, but someone, like Mel, might have taken her. So using their dog, they track her scent to the cabin, find Grandma, and after Mel leaves, trying to get her to remember everything by taking her to the store. Nothing works, but then he gives her fruitcake.
Jake, what am I doing here?
Grandma, you remember?
Sure, fruitcake solves everything. They make it to the courthouse just in time as they were about to reach a verdict, so at least he's cleared of potential kidnapping.
Your Honor, there are still the charges of slavehicular hit and run and leaving the scene of an accident.
Couldn't Grandma just drop the charges since she was the victim in this case? Well, it doesn't matter because Jake is about to go all Danganronpa on us and explained what happened.
These pieces had an extra ingredient in them from this vial of bad stuff found at Cousin Mel's cabin. You see, Your Honor, it had the effect of reindeer nip. That's why the reindeer knocked over Grandma. It wasn't Santa's reckless driving.
I couldn't control myself.
And of course, the letter that I'm surprised Mel didn't destroy when she found it was also shown, and she finally admits to her crime.
Oh, right. I admit it. Yes, I did it. I hid the note.
And
I made Grandpa sign over his rights to the store.
And
I'm behind this evil trial. And I hate the goody-goody feelings of Christmas. All this caring and sharing. So I kidnapped Grandma and made Santa Claus the fall guy so I could get all his money. Hey, I deserve to be rich.
You didn't even hide it all that well, you dumb bimbo. Well, with Santa cleared of all charges, he can go back to delivering presents just in time for Christmas. But not before we have another funny gag.
Not that one. It's Cousin Mel's.
Waha!
Whoa!
What?
Whoa!
Oh no! Reindeer nip! Not again!
Santa was then arrested for vehicular manslaughter, and his reindeer were put down. Merry frickin' Christmas, everybody. Okay, she's fine.
You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe.
Ugh, this movie was a pain. I don't know why they wouldn't have the Elmo version of the song play, or have him sing an original song instead of Gary Chase. But even that doesn't matter, because the story they told was awful. Sure, it's very silly like the song, but the song was at least out of the fact a family member might have died, and their reactions are close to realistic. Here, with how the characters openly exposit their actions, the trial of Santa, and how they constantly guilt you with not believing in Christmas, it just comes off as being very cartoonish. Rather, nothing in this movie is subtle or clever. It's mostly bad puns and bad animation. I suppose a child may like this, but more effort was needed to make any of this seem appealing. Hell, even the title screen and end credits lack any sort of effort. It just goes without saying, but no one should have to see this movie for any reason. You'd be better off listening to the actual song over and over, which is what I'm going to do before I put on some Carpenters or Michael Bublé. But of course, I got a wish to fulfill to a very loving cow next door. So until then, I'm the Media Hunter. Media's my prey, and reviewing them my way.
Grandma spending Christmas with the superstars since that reindeer ran her down that fateful night. Grandma's hanging out with all those late great stars for the heavenliest.
Grandma, watch out!
You can say there's no such thing as
A body has been discovered!